Hello everyone, how are you? I hope you had a great week past, and I hope looking forward it's going to be a great one too. Oh my gosh, is this for real? Are we going to talk about a very uncomfortable subject for many? Not everybody. It really depends. Okay, so in our 60s, in our 70s and 80s, yeah, I guess a lot of people are thinking about their own mortality a whole bunch more than we normally would. And the reason I love talking about this subject, as you know, I always love to talk about things that I have lived or have experienced myself, because then I think I can be more honest and I can maybe give you a little bit of guidance and saying, hey, you know what, I've experienced that and this is what worked for me. What on earth can I tell you about death? Well, I'm going to share a little bit what I feel about it personally myself. I'm going to share something my dad gave me. I think it was one of the biggest gifts my dad ever gave me. That was over 29 years ago. And I think it really sent me on a mission to look deeper and further. And yeah, it's definitely a subject that we have on our minds. The other reason I wanted to do this video is I have a subscriber. I think Frans is a subscriber. I'm not sure. On my last video, if you remember, it was, it's never, your bucket list, and it's never too late. It's never too late to change. And this was Fran on my last video. And she said, hi, I'm Fran. So Fran's knew. I'm 72 and I'm always thinking about death. Please advise me. Thanks. Wow. I thought, I wasn't even sure if I was going to give Fran any advice. And I did. I'm going to read that to you. Fran is 72, so she's a year younger than I am. And I can totally relate to this feeling because I had it, but I haven't had it really in the last 30 something years. It's something that I think I felt more in my 20s and my 30s, but it was more of a fear thing. Like I was afraid to do things because death could be the ultimate end of doing what I was thinking of doing. In that context, I had it. Like I wasn't a daredevil because God forbid I could die. So for me, it was more something I feared back then. Since then, I've learned a lot, or I've done a lot for myself. My answer to Fran at the time, because I don't know Fran personally, and I could think of this, and the reason I gave her this answer is because I look back, and I always say, don't look back, there is no future in our past, but I learned something from my past, and that's what I shared with her a bit. That is my grandpuppy playing with her toy. I'm puppy sitting. And that was that I experienced some of this. And so I gave her some advice, I guess, or something that I related to. And I was hoping that that answer would help her. And so I said, you can actually go to the video and see this comment on here. So anyway, so my response to Fran was, I said, hi, Fran, consider this. You lived to 94 and you look back and you realize that you forgot to live your life because you only had death on your mind. You will be so sad that you gave up on dreaming and enjoying life. And I do, like I said, I don't go by your past, but I do. I have lots of, I think back and I go, oh, I wish I'd have done that. I wish I'd have done this. And the only reason I didn't do it is I thought, oh, I could get hurt, I could die. Well, you know what? I can get in the car and let that happen. Or, I mean, we never know, right? It's going to happen to all of us. But I am not a religious person. There was a time where I was part of a religious organization, which for me, as we progress in it with our young children at the time, I found it to be very uncomfortable for me to have people say, you must do this in order to receive that, and you must change this in order to receive this. Myself, I believe that there is a God. I don't think and he's a really loving entity, and I don't believe that anybody in a religious groups are never comforting to me, because it's you got to follow a leader, and I think you give up your own beliefs and your own, or searching for your beliefs, or searching deeper for what you might believe in, because now you're listening to a person who thinks he may be sharing the message really well, but maybe not all that well. It's hard, right, when we're humans, not to throw our own little twist into it. So over the last 30 plus years, I've done a lot of reading and searching. I believe that I am a spiritual person. My soul is here intact. I think that for me, that the ultimate goal is to be as loving as that I can be. I've learned to love myself, and then the more I love myself, the more I can be for everybody else. And so it's always in a good place. I believe that I am here. I'm a spiritual person here having a human experience, and that the two need to align in order to be, I don't know, doing its best work while we're here. And yeah, so that's kind of me. So I'm a spiritual being having human experience, but I go way beyond what a lot of people just have that saying, but they don't really go beyond that. I go a little bit beyond that and believe, I have my own beliefs on death. That's what I'm going to get to. And I think what is really, really important, if I can share anything with you, as we get older, we get into our 60s and 70s and 80s, and we start checking out our own mortality and where we're at. You know, if you can find something, I think it's finding a belief, having faith in something. And you know what? It's not what... Finding comfort within yourself, knowing something for sure for yourself. Now, I mean, a lot of people, how can you know? Well, it's actually, you know, there's a lot of things that we can study. There are a lot of different things that we can look at that gives you comfort. Why am I so comfortable with it? I never used to be. Well, my dad said something to me, and I'm going to tell you the story, a little bit of it. Just a few months before my dad died, Bill and I were away. We always did the Labor Day golf tournament in a little town in the Kootenays called Nelson. And we got a call from my older sister who said, I think you guys should come home. We weren't going to go because my dad had not been well, cancer of the esophagus. And but they said, oh, no, go. My dad, I talked to him about it, and he said, no, go. He said, if you stay here, he said, I'm going to think there's something wrong, or no, I need you to go. So Bill and I went, and then we got a call, and they said, come on, you should come home. So we came home, and my dad was actually an emergency. So we went, Bill and I, right away from the airport, went to emergency, my dad. And he looked at us, Bill and I, and he goes, do you know something I don't know? Why are you home? I thought you guys were golfing. And so we kind of gently had to tell him that, you know, they thought maybe it was a good idea we came home, which didn't make him very happy. And so we sat and chatted with him for a bit in the emergency ward. And then he said something to me. And, you know, my history within my family dynamics was very, very strained and not a good place to be, but you know, there was all kinds of stuff for me there to learn to make me who I am today. And you know, when you come through all that and come out shining, it's good, because then you go, oh man, you know, like, yeah, I've learned so much. And but anyway, so he looked at me, and my dad was he said, you need to understand this. He said that death is really horrible for the people that you leave behind. I'm going to be just fine. I am okay. But for the people you leave behind, it's not so good. And then that's the one time he told me that he loved me. We had a visit. Bill and I, well, of course we didn't go back, but anyway, that was it. But then this happened, and this made me start looking further and more. And people will say, and you know what, I'm going to share with you, you're going to say I'm out to lunch or whatever, but as you know, it all depends on what you believe. And I do believe that we can touch our loved ones that have passed on. I think they're you know, their energy, it's like a radio station has a frequency, and it's out there forever, ever. Our souls have a frequency, and they're out there forever and ever. Now, should we ever align with all of that, we can actually sense or feel that person that has left us. But this is what happened to me, and I still to this day say this, and I go, it was about a week after my dad had passed. A lot of things that were really sad and not very nice had happened, even as far as his funeral went. But anyway, that's okay, because you know what? I know that being a spiritual person, that he saw all that. And so he knows what I know. And so we don't have to explain it. It's in our past. We'll just keep looking forward. But this happened. It was a gift. I know you're going to say she's gone off for a rocker, or maybe you're going to say, I can totally relate to that. All right, so I was laying in bed. Bill and I were still living in our house at the time. I was laying in bed. I was just having a really bad, sad day. And later on, Bill came home. I was in tears. But I said to him, you know, I was laying in bed and I heard the doorbell ring. And I'm sure it was a dream, but it felt so real. It was, and even today when I talk about it, it's so vivid, right? And so I see myself running down the stairs and opening the front door, and my dad is standing there, and my dad loved wearing his gray pants, baby blue shirt, navy blue blazer, navy blue tie. That's what he usually wore to work. And I can't remember if this is the only thing. I'm stuck on buttons. I can't remember if they were gold buttons or they were navy blue buttons on his jacket. Anyway, he stood there in front of me. And as you know, if you've ever lost a loved one to cancer, it just can, you know, eat away at their bodies. And my dad was like, yeah, he was not, of course, it eaten away at him. And there he was standing in front of me at the front door. I swung the door open and I was like, Dad. And he looked handsome and whole and gorgeous and beautiful. Oh my gosh. I mean, I could not believe it. And he said, I wanted to come and tell you that I am okay. I'm fine. I am okay. I'm going to cry. No, I'm not going to cry. Anyway, I just could not believe it. Okay, but get this. My dad died on a Saturday. The Wednesday before that, the week before he passed away. I don't know why Bill and I only had one car, but we live about 40 minutes from where my dad was in the hospital. So he had a really bad reaction to morphine. Some people get very, out of it. And he'd be flailing all over and so forth. So they would put him in a straitjacket at night, which absolutely horrified me. So I would drop Bill off at the office. Bill usually saw his first patient about 8 o'clock in the morning. So I would drop him off at 7:30 at his office and then get myself over to the hospital. And I wanted to get my dad out of that straitjacket. And as long as somebody was there with him, then he didn't have to have that on. So anyway, and he'd be up and he'd be, hey, I want to get out. I want to go sit over. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to do that. Like he was out of it totally. And so the nurses said, we try to get him into the chair and then he won't go in. Anyway, my dad finally on this Wednesday, he got into the chair and it was a glorious day. And so I started walking him down the hall and it was so funny because he said, stop. He was a real handyman. Like he could fix things and a lot of things that he was really good at. And I had to stop because he said the fence was falling over or the gate was hanging and needed to fix it. So we stood there and I handed him the hammer and I gave him the nails and he was like going through all the motions that he was fixing it. But it was a beautiful day, and so I thought, you know what, let's take him outside. That was the last time my dad was ever outside because he died on the Saturday. So we went outside and in the little town where the church is. It's not that little anymore, but it's actually where the Vancouver airport is. It's called Richmond. They had an old church which they had moved, relocated, because it was a really old church. Actually, I think my niece got married, my goddaughter got married in there, if I remember correctly. Anyway, we went for a walk, and my fighter planes came over, and my dad was totally into that, and he just looked, you know, he's still full of morphine, but he looked, you know, he was having moments, and it was so cool to see. And he loved flowers, and he was a pretty good gardener. So there was this beautiful, beautiful rose bush. So I snapped off the rose, and I put it down. He had a blanket while I was sitting down, and I put the blanket, or the rose, on the blanket, and he just kind of looked at it. And you know how you just kind of go, you know, that's going to be our thing. Like that rose will always be our thing. It was just the last thing I gave my dad, a rose off the bush in the gardens of the hospital. Anyway, so my dad passed away on the Saturday. That's a whole other story. It was really awful. It was family dynamics can do terrible things, but that's okay. My dad knows. My dad, that's what I love about the spiritual being. We know. Anyway, so now fast forward, or whatever, back to my dad be standing at the door, all whole and complete. Till the day we sold that house. My dad's birthday is in November. Now we live in Canada. We live in Vancouver on the West Coast. We have winters, like there's really no reason for roses to be blooming in the month of November. Every November, I had this straggly rose bush. Every November, in the week of his birthday, I would get a red rose, and it bloomed beautiful red. It did that until the day we sold the house. I kind of regret we didn't take that rose bush with us, but anyway, honest to goodness, you could ask my girls, you could talk to Bill about it, and I always knew that was just my dad saying, you're okay, you're okay. It never stopped giving me that flower every November. So the conclusion of this is find something. Find something that gives you faith. Find something that brings you comfort, because it's going to happen. And it shouldn't be scary, and it shouldn't be like, oh my gosh. You know, like I say, we're like a radio wave. It's full of energy. Energy lives on. Our souls are forever and ever and ever. And I tell my grandkids all the time, I know this sounds crazy. Oh my gosh, this guy just, 17 minutes. But you know, I tell my grandkids all the time. And I have a little thing with them. I said, you find something that you and I are going to connect. That when you have a moment, you're going to say, oh, Ma. Me saying, I love you, I'm watching you, I have your back. It's never goodbye. It's never goodbye. It really isn't. So really, to dream and to live your life the best you can in your 60s and your 70s and 80s. Find something that gives you comfort. Find something that you say, yeah, you know what? I'm there. I am there. And my day will come, and I have all my loved ones I will leave behind, but they're going to be okay. They're fine. You've had them under your wing. You gave them the best of you. And even if you didn't give them the best of you, you gave them something. I'm sure you've left them a lesson of some sort. But you know what? In your 60s, in your 70s, in your 80s, enjoy and live every single day. I promise you, yes, we will all die one day. Why would we worry about something we have no control over? It's going to happen. Find something. Live a life of gratitude. Live a life where you can say, I really appreciate these things in my life. I live with sheer appreciation of everything that is given to me. And when the day comes, I know I'll be okay. I have a soul. I'm a spiritual person. or whichever way you want to go, you go. But if you have faith, if you find something to believe in, you have, okay, go have life, go live it, go live it. You never know. But I'll see you on the other side though. Okay, guys, thanks for being here. And remember, there is no future in our past. Take the wonderful memories, take the lessons, and carry on. Okay, see you later. See you next week. Bye.